Hi there, welcome to this short video all about installing Droplet computing to Linux. In this particular example I've used Ubuntu Linux version 20. We obviously support both deb and RPM, so whatever your distribution of Linux that you're using, you can guarantee that you can install it. To save some time, I've downloaded files to this Linux machine. So I've got the core software, my license file, and a zip of the Droplet image. I've extracted that Droplet image to my documents folder so I have access to it during the install. So the first step is to install the software. You can do that through the graphical UI. You simply right click the deb file and choose Open with Software Install. Of course you could use command line tools to do that as well. Then all I need to do is click Install and supply my password, and the software will be installed. If I have a look at my applications, you can see there's a Droplet logo there, and I can add that to my favorites to make it easy for me to run every single time. When I first run the application, it will ask me to supply my license file. All I need to do is browse to that location, select the license file, and the software will load. And then I merely accept the end user license agreement. After the install, it's worth checking under Help and About to ensure that you have hardware acceleration available. We leverage the KVM extensions of Linux to gain access to either the Intel VT or AMD V instructions on the CPU. Next thing I need to do is allocate a certain amount of memory and CPU, and also turn on hardware acceleration. And then finally, browse to an image that I extracted earlier. Now all the settings in place, I can start the container. Once our software is loaded, you'll be presented with a launch button for what's called the Droplet shell. Let's click at that now. We can resize the Droplet shell by hitting the maximize button. As you can see, the Droplet shell interface is a highly redacted environment which basically only allows applications to run. It is customizable, so using policy settings you can change the logo here, and you can add and remove any number of icons across this taskbar using standard Windows procedures. Next thing I'm going to do is actually install some software into the container. The easiest way for me to do that is to connect inside the container to my network and access software that I've got on my network location. So one of the unique things about Droplet is that there's no special install or recording process. You simply take your existing executables and run them inside the container. You can run these over the network, or you could copy them to the container and run them locally. So here I am installing Notepad++ into the container. That's the install done. And I can say I don't want an update at the moment. And I can right click and pin this to the taskbar. And I can move this icon to another location. If I didn't want end users to have access to the command prompt, I could just unpin it. Same goes for Explorer as well, and Control Panel. When I'm finished with Droplet shell, I use this icon to log out. And once logged out, I can shut down the container when I'm not using it. In the next part of this video, I'm just going to show some advanced settings that you can turn on for our software that improves its usability. To do that, I'm going to open up a terminal window and just use a text editor to modify a key configuration file. The configuration file is held in the .config folder inside a folder called Droplet. The key configuration file that I want to modify is something called settings.json, which will change the way our application runs. So one thing you might be interested in is enabling things like the clipboard. and this will allow you to do copy and paste between the container and the local machine. You might also want to be able to access remotely the home directory of the system. We do support other features, and I'll have to be honest with you, it's very difficult to test whether every single printer that works with Linux also can be redirected into the container. The same goes for things like COM ports, which are nowadays provided by USB adapters and audio. So by all means turn on these particular settings, but we can't guarantee that for all devices they will work. What always works is the clipboard and gaining access to the drives. So I'll save that file and I'll restart our software so you can see the changes that makes. So now the container's restarted, I can launch Droplet Shell again. And if I run Explorer, you'll be able to see that I can now see the home location on my system and gain access to the files and folders that are on the Linux-based system. And this makes transferring of files from the container into your Linux environment very easy. A lot of people will not use the local storage of the container to keep the container size small and prefer to save their files outside of the container. If you're familiar with Microsoft policies, you can hide things like the C drive and deny them access. So Droplet Shell is open to customization and modification. So that's it from us. Thank you very much for watching this video. Hopefully you've been able to see how easy it is to set up Droplet computing on Linux. Bye for now.